Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namah Yam Prabrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Viraka Taruha Juhava Putreti Tamayataya Taravo Banedos Tam Sarva Bhuta Hridayam Munimanatosmi Bhaktya Vahina Aparada Lakshay Chittasya Kama Tarangamaye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Praparyam Vinde Namaste Sharanarvindam Tavaivasmi Najivami Tambina Iti Vidyaya Radhe Tam Nayamam Charanantike Kam. First, I offer my unlimited obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of my most worshipful Diksha Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada, and onto the lotus feet of my Shiksha Gurudevs, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj, to our Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Goswami Maharaj, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, and to all of his divine associates, and to all the assembled devotees. So yesterday was also the appearance day of Srila Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj, and the program gave him about 10 minutes or so. So we're going to discuss from Srila Gurudev's lectures about his glories today, because we missed yesterday, almost missed yesterday, and we have heard at least 20 times from our Shiksha Guru Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj that if we glorify the pure devotees on their titis, then all obstacles go away and all auspiciousness comes. And if we fail to do so, then the reverse happens. Srila Maharaj often quotes in that connection 3 verses from Manushiksha, all about the importance of calling out to and remembering the pure devotees, especially on their days. Yadi cheravasam prajabhuvi saragam pratijanor yuvadandam tachet paricharitamāradhabilase swarupam srirupam saganamihatasya grajamapi sputam premna nityam smaranamatadattvam shrunu manaha. O mind, if you are eager to reside in Braj, filled with ragatmika bhakti, and if you desire the direct service of the youthful divine couple, Vidvarudi, Sri Sri Radha Krishna, then listen to me, birth after birth. Always distinctly remember, as was just discussed, and bow down with great love to Sri Swarup Damodar, Sri Rupa Goswami and his older brother, Sri Sanatana Goswami, and to all other associates who are recipients of Mahaprabhu's mercy. Asach cheta kasta pradavikata pasha libiriha prakamam kamadi prakata patapati vyatakarai kale badvahanye hamiti bhakabhidvartma bhagane kuru tvam putkaram avati sayatatvam mana ita. Lust, anger, and so on, the band of dacoits on the open road of material life, have bound my neck licentiously with the torturous, dreadful ropes of wicked deeds, and are thus killing me. O mind, speaking in this way, you must grievously cry out to the powerful and merciful protectors of the path leading to Sri Krishna, the killer of Bakasura. Hearing your piteous cry, they shall surely protect you. And just remembering Prabhuji's lecture, first I just want to interrupt with an apology that it is much better to be in a cage of iron, drenched in a fire, than to have my association excuse me that it's imposed upon you now. But I'm going to continue, of course that's what's happening. So then, Pratista sajista swapacharamani me hridinatet katam sadhu premna sprisati suchire tananumana sadatvam sevasva prabhudayata samanthamatulam yatatam nishkasha tvaritam ihatvam beshayati sa. O mind, as long as the shameless outcast woman of desire for prestige is dancing in my heart, how can pure transcendental prem touch it? Touch it. That atak Sri Krishna namadi, spurti, how can the spurti come? Always serve the dear devotees of the Lord, who are the immeasurably powerful commanders in his army. They will at once banish this outcast woman of the desire for prestige and initiate the flow of prem in my heart. So, on that note, we're going to speak some atom of glories of Srila Bhaktivedanta, Vaman Goswami Maharaj. But it's so good that we have the foundation of all of Gurudev's teachings and the memory of his conduct and activities, as you've heard in the last couple of days. And then now seeing another person who embodies that. So the first lecture I'm going to quote was given on November 18th in 2004. 2 years prior to that, on the same day, Srila Trivakram Goswami Maharaj left the vision of the world. And now in 2004, Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj left. So Srila Gurudev is giving this lecture in Govardhan. He had been in Govardhan with 1,000 devotees at Parikrama. But as soon as he heard that Srila Vaman Maharaj left, even at his personal inconvenience because he wasn't feeling well, he immediately took a train to Calcutta, to Navadvip. And because he had heard that Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj had requested that he himself perform his samadhi ceremony. Often the disciple or associate who performs the samadhi ceremony is the successor. Unfortunately, in the middle of the night, some other disciples did everything, not wanting to give Gurudev the credit and become the successor or the next acharya in the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti. So Srila Gurudev will talk about this a little bit more later in the lecture. But he said, so I went there and I saw that everything was already done. So I did what I could do. I offered my pushpanjali, I performed arti, and I did samadhi of his samadhi. I did parikram of his samadhi mandir that was just created. Then he began speaking about the life of Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj. His parents were Vaishnavas. And so his mother was a disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. And she was very religious, had a lot of guru nistha, and she was very intelligent. So intelligent that without attachment, but with affection, the difference is attachment means I'm attached to someone for my sense gratification, and affection means that I want that person's spiritual welfare. So out of affection for her 10-and-a-half-year-old son, she brought him to the mutt and gave him at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. And then he was initiated and called Sajjan Sevak Brahmachari. And Srila Prabhupada put him in the Bhaktivinoda Institute, and he came out top in his class. Then after Srila Prabhupada disappeared, even when Srila Prabhupada was present, he'd always taken shelter of his Shiksha Guru, that is our Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragan, Keshav Goswami Maharaj, who was the one who nurtured him and gave him everything that he needed for his bhakti. So he considered Param Gurudev his mother, his father, his Shiksha Guru, his all and all, and was fully surrendered to him. He very, very quickly, even as a young boy, memorized the whole Bhagavad Gita, as you heard last night, Gaudiya Kantahar, which is a book of verses on various tattvas, and so many other transcendental scriptures. After school, he would come back to the mutt and engage in all kinds of services. For example, he'd be the one to pass out the leaf plates at the beginning of Prasadam. He would pass out the salt, and he'd pass out the lemons, and then he would, after the Prasadam, he would collect all the leaf plates and throw them away and clean up the whole place all by himself. And then at night, after everybody was taking rest, he went to the toilets, and toilets do not mean what they are now. They're very foul places. And so he went to the toilets and cleaned all the toilets. And he would put the stools of the Vaishnavas on his head, in the bucket, that is. So he was always engaged in the services. And it was all under the direction of Srila Param Gurudev. And there were many examinations put before him, and he passed all of those examinations. One was, after the disappearance of Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the devotees of the mutt were falsely charged with murder of all things. And so 45 devotees were put into prison, including Param Gurudev. And so young Sajjan Sevak Brahmachari, he had to do everything back at the temple himself. He would cook, he would offer the prasadam, he would bring the prasadam to the jail, and he would go to the courts, he would work with the lawyers, all by himself. But then he got criticism that he didn't have Diksha initiation, so how could he cook? So therefore, in the jail, he took Diksha initiation from Param Gurudev. Then, in 1941, that was the time that in Calcutta and in Navadvip, Srila Param Gurudev, along with the assistance of our Srila Prabhupada, who was known as Abhay Charande at the time, started the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti, also with Nishringa Brahmachari. And Sajjan Sevak Brahmachari was also present and assisting at that time. Another time, 100 devotees visited their mutt, and the only one who could cook was Sajjan Sevak Brahmachari, but he was very sick with 104 degrees fever. So Srila Param Gurudev told him, okay, so stop being sick now, cook a feast for everybody, and then you can be sick again. And that's exactly what he did. Then, as Prabhuji mentioned last night, when Srila Gurudev, without telling anybody in his family, when he left home, making his bed look like he was in it, like rolling up the blankets, and he left in the middle of the night and took a train to the station in Navadvip, and he didn't know anyone, and he didn't tell anyone that he was coming. So Sajjan Sevak Brahmachari was there with a hurricane lamp and went over to him and said, "Are you Tiwariji? Well, how did you know? I didn't tell anyone I was coming." "Oh, our Gurudev told us that you were coming." So immediate that eternal relationship. Then Srila Gurudev explained that when, as soon as I came to the mutt, Srila Vaman Maharaj was my big brother. He gave me clothes and bedding, and he, along with Srila Trivikram Maharaj, taught me kirtan, taught me so many things. And so therefore, I considered him also as my Shiksha Guru, Srila Gurudev was explaining. Actually, there were 3 of us who right from the beginning were the leaders of our Gurudev's mutt. That is Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj, myself, that is Srila Gurudev, and Srila Trivikram Maharaj. And we were always together all the time. Then, jumping a bit, if Srila Vaman Maharaj had not gotten ill before his apparent departure, nobody would have been able to weaken the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti. But because his health was weakened, and then he disappeared, so everything became corrupted. But he said, what happened, happened. And that's all the arrangement of Shri Krishna. As Prem Prayojana Prabhu just mentioned, everything is under the control of Krishna, and with the Vidva Rudi Darshan, one sees that everything is under the control of God. Even deviations are under the control of God for specific reasons. Then he said, speaking about Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj's writings, he was a perfect writer. He made no mistakes. And also, during the time of the Navadvip Dham Parikrama, when Srila Param Gurudev was greeting and speaking to thousands of pilgrims and answering questions and giving darshan, at the same time, Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj was there with pen and paper in hand. And Srila Vaman Maharaj would request him, so you wanted to give your article, you wanted to write your article about something or other. So then he would turn his attention, Param Gurudev would turn his attention to Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj and spend just a few minutes dictating an article. Sometimes it was articles about different groups or different personalities who would be criticizing his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, challenging and accusing him of so many things. At that time, he would become red in fury, which is the duty of the disciple, and either ask Srila Gurudev to take a dictation or Srila Vaman Maharaj to take a dictation. Whatever Srila Vaman Maharaj wrote, like in a few minutes, like no typing, no stenography, no, first you make a recording, and then you hear the recording again to make sure your minutes were right. But he wrote in hand a few pages just from those few minutes. And then it didn't need any editing. That very same day, it would go to the press. And very same day, or the day after, it would come out in Param Gurudev's Gaudiya Patrika magazine. So these devotees who had all these mystic powers as insignificant byproducts of their devotion. Then Srila Gurudev said that not only did he write beautifully, but he also spoke beautifully. And sometimes he would speak for up to 3 hours. And everything he says was perfect and very soft. He spoke very softly. And if in his lecture he had to defeat someone who was present, who had an abrasive or upasidantic philosophy, he would defeat them in such a way that only the person who was defeated would know that it was meant for him. He was so clever and so sweet. Because as you heard last night, because he was a genius right from when he joined, that Srila Param Gurudev would say, if you learn a verse, then I'll give you a toffee. First, everybody thought it was chocolate, so wow, chocolate, yes. But then I asked Sripad Madhav Goswami Maharaj, and he said, no, it was toffee. But he learned so many verses, as you heard yesterday, and got so many pieces of toffee. Not that he was attached to the toffee, because he wasn't attached to anything in relation to himself. Srila Gurudev said that he never talked about himself. He never did any self-praise. He would appreciate other devotees, but he never ever did any self-praise. He was extremely humble. And he was also very polite in that when he was supposed to speak, he would ask Gurudev, who was younger than him, to speak first. And then Gurudev, being younger, would say, no, I can't speak, you speak. And then they would have this little argument in front of the whole audience. And then finally, he defeated Gurudev and Gurudev spoke. Then Srila Gurudev said he was actually the right-hand man of Param Gurudev. Everything about him was ideal behavior. And let's see. Then he started talking about the Samadhi ceremony that he had just come back from. He left as soon as he heard and came back the next day. And he said, so I know that yesterday on the day of his appearance, you held the Viraha Mahotsava. Again, Viraha. V means special, Raha means meeting. So in Viraha, or special separation, if there's no meeting, then it's not Viraha. It becomes a Mahotsav, a great festival, because at that time his presence is felt much more. In meetings, sometimes absorption is not there, absorption in feeling the presence. But in separation, the feeling of the presence is felt more in that grievous separation. And so meeting cannot be real without separation, and therefore our bhajan, as we learn from our acharyas in all of their songs, all of their kirtans, are bhajans of separation, in separation. Even the one that was mentioned, Prabhuji, today, that is, now that I've taken shelter of your lotus feet, O Gurudev, I'm feeling happiness in all four directions. and I've forgotten all my past history, and I only know that you're mine and I am yours. But still there's feeling of separation. Even in meeting, there's a sense of imminent separation. So separation and meeting, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, goes on nourishing each other, ever increasing forever. So separation is there in bhajan, beginning with separation from Sri Guru, and then it's also there in Bhava Bhakti, and then it's also there in Prema Bhakti, as we see with Srimati Radhika and the Gopis and Mother Yasoda. Srila Gurudev was explaining about that one day was the middle of the day, the hottest time of the day, and it was the hottest time of the year, the hottest season of the year. And Mother Yasoda was carrying Krishna's little baby toys, and her Saki called to her, Saki, where are you going? I'm going to Mathura. Why are you going to Mathura? Because my Lala, my little baby, is at the house of Devaki now. So I'm going to go there, and I'm not going to say, I want to see my son. I'm going to say, I just want to get some darshan of your son. And then, absorbed in that way, she fainted right on the spot, not from the heat of the day, but from the feeling of separation. Gurudev said you can also think this when you're chanting your japa. But, as Prabhu said, in reality. So, because now Srila Gurudev was feeling immense separation from Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj. He had just come back from the ceremony, and not only was he weeping, but when he was leaving, after doing the arti and the pushpanjali and the parikrama, thousands of disciples of Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj and others surrounded the car, just like the gopis surrounded the chariot when Krishna was leaving for Mathura. And they said, please don't go. Our Gurudev just left, so we can't live without you. Stay with us. Please stay with us. And Gurudev said, I told them that I'll always be with you, but I cannot stay here because I've been insulted here. And so I'm leaving, but whenever you want me, whenever I can help you, then just let me know, and I'm there to serve you and guide you. Then he explained that now the mutt in charge are the little foolish boys who I brought up in their first years. They came, even their baby teeth had not come out. Not physically, but these foolish boys whose baby teeth had not come out, they trying to make the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti devoid of Srila Gurudev, because you've heard about his nature in the recent few days, how all attractive he is. So wanting to have that name and fame, he said, they've insulted me, and so now I'm leaving. And he also called them little snakes. So we don't want to criticize, but we're just telling what Srila Gurudev said in his lecture. He said they have no faith in their Gurudev, and because of that, Gurudev meaning Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj, and because of that, they will very soon, in a few days, destroy themselves and also destroy the mud. Then he closed by saying that, so I'm ending by offering my pushpanjali. That means externally the flowers. Flowers doesn't only mean flowers of physical flowers. It means the flowers of the words that when I offer glorification, that's offering our Pushpanjali. So now I offer him Pushpanjali and pray for his mercy for me and for everyone here. So because I have more time, I'm going to ask if there's any questions or comments. Yes?
I don't know if this is related to it, but I hear Lord Krishna has a Guru Dev named Santi Penny.
Well, I'm hoping the questions would be on the topic.
Okay, no.
There's a very, very beautiful video, which maybe we could even show tonight for 5 minutes. No, because we'll be at the other place. But there is a very, very beautiful video. I wonder if we could show it here, of Srila Gurudev and Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj laughing together and garlanding each other and conversing so sweetly with each other. Is Prasanti around, or did she go? Janardhan, you wouldn't be able to organize that, would you? With the TV and then to find that one? It's just so, oh, you're here.
We have to pull out the TV.
Yeah, we would have to do that.
During lunch?
Huh?
During lunch?
Lunch is here. Well, then it's not. Yeah, we would have to do that, but look at all the trouble that Srila Vaman Goswami went to. All we have to do is pull out the TV.
How long could it take?
It'll take about three minutes.
I gotta find the video first.
Yeah, we got the video.
Okay, isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
So, while we're waiting, I'm sorry?
Pull off the TV is a whole rearrangement of
No, I just put it here, facing the people. They're already facing here,
We'll just have to
and we
like
can
this.
adjust.
all these things are going to happen. Roman not going to, TV will know.
Can we pull it 2 inches back?
Try.
Okay, it's just so beautiful.
Absolutely.
Because I think some devotees here don't know what he looks like even. So while we're waiting, I'm going to another topic of back to Srila Gurudev. I wanted to share some remembrances that I have of Srila Gurudev in relation to the paintings, because I've done that before, of course, but many devotees haven't heard that. So, yes. So let's start with this painting of Kunj Kirtan. In 2009, in the Philippines, Srila Gurudev told me 4 verses that are in the Mangalacharana section of the songbook. And they are prayers to Krishna, there's actually 2 sections of the Mangalacharana prayers. One is what everybody usually does before the bhajans, and the other one, which if you're not already doing it, you might love to introduce yourself to it. It's prayers to different individual associates of Krishna, like Gopiswara Mahadev, Purnamasi, places like Navadvip and Jamuna, Yogamaya, and also to Krishna, which is these 4 verses. So they're also very beautiful to sing, and they increase or establish. They are pure sound. They are, what is that? Siddha mantras. And then gradually, in the course of time, surrendering to them, so these personalities will reveal themselves to us. I asked Srila Gurudev once, is it okay to pray to Govardhan Hill while we're chanting the Hare Krishna mantra? Because he said all these personalities, Purnamasi and Jamuna, Govardhan, they're all in the pastimes. And so when we pray to them, they're also within the Hare Krishna mantra,
When you're ready,
which
let us
is
know.
all the pastimes. What?
When you're ready, let us know and we'll
Uh,
have a kirtan and set up.
Okay. So I'm going to read the 4 verses, or should we just have the kirtan?
Read the 4 verses.
Okay. So the verses are as follows. Baraha vida vidamam rigamaratilakam kundalakranta gandam kanjaksham kambukantam svitasubhagamakam swadare nyastavenam shamam shantam tribangam ravikaravasanam pushanam vaijayantya Bande Vrindavanastam Yuvati Satavratam Brahma Gopala Visham. His crown is decorated with a peacock feather, and his forehead is marked with tilak of musk. Makara-shaped earrings swing upon his cheeks, and his face is decorated with a gentle smile. A vein of flute rests upon his lips. His complexion is darkish. He is supremely peaceful, and he stands in a threefold bending posture. His cloth resembles the rays of the sun, and he is adorned with a Vaijayanti garland. I worship that Param Brahma, who is always situated in Sri Vrindavan, surrounded by hundreds of young maidens, and dressed in the entire attire of a cowherd boy. Kastori tilakalalata patale vakshastale kostubam nasagre varamoktikam karatale venum kare kankanam sarvange harichandanam sulalitam kante cha muktavali gopastri parivesito vijayate Gopala Chudamani. His forehead is decorated with musk tilak. The coast of a jewel rests on his broad chest, and an exquisite pearl hangs from the tip of his nose. The flute gracefully rests on his lotus hands, and bracelets adorn his wrists. His entire form is anointed with chandan, and a necklace of pearls graces his attractive neck. All those words fit into the one form of Krishna. All glories to the crest jewel of all gopas, who is surrounded by young Braj gopis. And then, Pulendi Varakantam Indu Varanam Varatavaham Sapriyam Srivatsankamudara Kostabadaram Pittambaram Sundaram Gopinam Nayanotpalarpitatanum Gopasangavritam Govindam Kalavenuvaranaparam Dilyangabhusham Bhaje. I worship Govinda, whose complexion is the color of a blossoming blue lotus. His face is like the moon, and he is fond of wearing a peacock's feather in his crown. His chest bears the mark of the Srivatsa, a curl of white hair. And he's adorned, he wears yellow garments, and his handsome form is worshipped by the gopis' sidelong glances. His companions are multitudes of cows and cowherd boys. He plays sweet melodies on his flute, and his body is decorated with glittering ornaments. Are we ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
So Gurudev said, take these 4 verses and paint 4 general paintings that can be used anywhere. So this is a very, very specific pastime, but it looks general. And according to the audience, we explain it in a specific or general way. It just looks like Krishna as described here in the 4 verses, and he's surrounded by the beautiful cowherd maidens. The specific pastime is from Srila Gurudev's commentary on Vilap Kusmanjali, verse 3, which is that in the Nishant Lila, it's a verse by Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, saying, "O Rati Manjari, you are the most fortunate girl in this land of Braj, because it is you who Srimati Radhika has told to go into the cave." And there are kunjas in the cave, is that correct? Kunj, like, he would know. And so, to get her golden waist belt, which Krishna loves so much, and which is which he loves to untie, and it's a connection between the both of them. So then, why is Raghunath Das Goswami saying, "O Rati Manjari"? Because this verse is not actually his verse. Just like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami put in a verse from Srila Rupa Goswami as though it was his verse, as he's writing verses. So similarly, Raghunath Das Goswami's guru is also Srila Rupa Goswami, who is giving blessings to Raghunath Das Goswami, saying, "You can write, and whatever you write, it will be successful. It will be the best writing." And also, it's a blessing from Rupa Manjari to Rati Manjari. So here, Rati Manjari, how is she fortunate? Because, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll tell the rest of it after. Okay. Oh. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Bhakti Goswami Maharaj ki jai. I think it must be that my time is up now. So I'll tell the rest of this and other painting pastimes with Gurudev this evening. It is up, right? Srila Gurudev ki jai. Srila Bhakti Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Just want to mention one quick one, that Srila Bhakti Goswami Maharaj was in charge of the printing press. And so not only did he help make the articles, but he was in charge of the press that printed. And so one day, his fingers got crushed in the press. And when Param Gurudev heard that, he actually began weeping profusely and personally took him to the hospital. Everything got mended, but just to show their relationship.
Thank you so much.
So, in the absence of RMC, would you like to start?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Srimati Shamarani Didi ki
Jai.
Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Auspicious weekend at GVO ki jai. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksuran Militan Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manavistam Stavitan Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Karamaya Didanti Swapadanti Kam. First of all, I offer my most humble obeisances at the lotus feet of my Shiksha and Diksha Guru. Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pada Satara Satasi Simat Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Then I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my Shiksha and Sannyas Guru. Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pada Satara Satasi Simat Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj. I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my two Shiksha Gurus, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pada Satara Satasi Simat Srila Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj and Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharti Goswami Maharaj. I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pada Satara Satasi Simat Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj. And I offer my humble obeisances unto the Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Prabhupada, Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, and Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And I offer my humble obeisances unto the feet of all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis who are assembled here today, headed by Srimati Shamarani Didi and Sri Prem Prayojan Prabhu and my esteemed godbrother Mahabhuti Prabhu. My Dandavat pranams to all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Please accept my Dandavat. Hare Krishna. So, Rishabdev, Lord Rishabdev, he had 100 sons. The eldest son was Bharat Maharaj. And the next 9 sons were known as the Navyugendras. Prabhuda, Antariksha, Havi, Kavi, like this. And after that, there was 9 more sons who were great, powerful Kshatriyas who managed the entire kingdom. And then there was 81 sons who were great Brahmin Pandits after that. So he had a very prodigious production of children. His eldest son, Bharat Maharaj, was a very extraordinary personality. I've talked about it before here. I think I talked about it on the first night, about how the opulences of the Absolute, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are 6 opulences. All fame, all wealth, all beauty, all power, all knowledge, and all renunciation. And due to envy of those different opulences, we become lusty for them. We become greedy for them. If we don't get them, we become angry. And if we get them in a small degree, we become very proud. And this causes illusion. So, when we look at Bharat Maharaj, and we see, like even within the realm of our personal experience, Srila Gurudev used to bring up about Princess Diana, how she was beautiful, she was powerful, she was wealthy, influential, very intelligent. She had all these wonderful qualities, but yet she wasn't happy because she had no love. So we see that there's always some, no matter how much you get of the opulences of the Absolute, there's always some drawback, some defect, some problem which interferes with your continuous pleasure of the material world, because there can't be any continuous pleasure in the material world. It can only lead to grief. But Bharat Maharaj is a very interesting personality because he was so powerful. He was the king of the entire world. You try to understand, there's a lot of demons now today who are trying to take control of the whole world. But Bharat Maharaj was actually in control of the whole world. That's how powerful he was. Not only was he in control of the whole world, but everyone loved him so much. He was so famous and so beloved that they named the entire planet after him and called it Bharat Varsha. So he was powerful, he was famous, he was wealthy, he was influential, he was a brilliant personality. He married a beautiful queen and produced 5 powerful sons. He had everything, no matter how much we may dream of having the different opulences of the Absolute. No one can even come close to a small measure of what Bharat Maharaj had. And yet it's written in Srimad Bhagavatam that when it came time for him to leave his kingdom and go to the forest to practice vanaprastha and meditation and achieve spiritual perfection, it said that he walked away from the kingdom the way a person walks away from the stool that he passes in the morning without even a second thought of it. If we have a room in this house or an apartment or a home, to leave that home, to leave that room, to leave that house is so much emotional trauma that we have to go through to deal with. He walked away from the world. He had the whole world and walked away from the world, just like we walk away from the stool that we deposit in the toilet in the morning without even a second thought about it. No interest. That's how detached he was, in spite of having all these opulences. Unlimited. And then, Srila Bharat Maharaj, by meditating with great attention in the process, actually achieved Bhav. And although he was in Bhav, he becomes confused by this deer. And when the deer comes, he becomes attached to this deer temporarily, and while chasing after the deer, when the deer runs away, he falls in a pit and dies thinking about the deer and has to take birth as a deer. But he remembers. Try to imagine being in charge of the whole world and then taking your next birth as a deer and remembering who you were. Remembering that you were in charge of the whole world and now you couldn't even put food and you had to grovel for food on the ground with your mouth. So what did this lead to? This led to Bharat Maharaj staying close to the ashram where the Bhaktivedantas were constantly glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead and hearing their Hari Katha continuously. So that when he expired from the body of the deer, he took birth in a very high exalted Brahmin family. And even though he was in a very exalted Brahmin family, very quickly he observed that if I show my true intelligence and nature and understanding, then I will only get subsumed into the flow of material society once again. What else was there for Bharat Maharaj to try and achieve in this life? Could he ever have the power of the whole planet again? Could he ever have all of the wealth and fame and wisdom and everything that he had once before? No. That comes once in 100 billion lifetimes. So he knew, he understood very carefully. And this story is there for a reason. For us to learn, for us to know, for us to understand that no matter what you have in the end, you can become an animal if you're not careful. And that if you have the opportunity to understand how entangling this material nature is, then playing deaf, dumb, and blind to the different illusory images of this material world is the best way to try and deal with them. Just turn a blind eye to them completely. Stop hearing, stop talking, stop seeing. Srila Bharti Maharaj used to talk about tape recordings, how your senses tape the images by hearing with the ears, by seeing with the eyes, by touching with the fingers. Tape those images and tape record those illusions into the consciousness and into our thought processes so that we become addicted to them on some level. So on one hand, although Bharat Maharaj was acting deaf, dumb, and visually impaired, he was in fact completely enlightened to everything that was going on. but he avoided interfacing with the material nature so that he would not have to again become forced into the flow of material society. Now, interestingly enough, his 9 brothers, the Nav-Yogendras, in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, they have a very interesting discussion with Maharaj Nimi. And Maharaj Nimi hears from the sage Kavi, and then he hears in the 3rd chapter about Maya from Antariksha. Antariksha starts to explain about the nature of the 5 elements and how the Supersoul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, enters into the different elements and into the hearts of all the living entities. In fact, this whole material nature, is animated in the background by the presence of the Supersoul. By his presence, it becomes animated, and because he's in every atom and in between every atom, and because he maintains the illusion of this material world in terms of the temporary forms and situations. And so he's explaining Antariksha about this. And then he's explaining how eventually the material nature dissolves. And he gives this description of how there's this incredible heat that scorches the earth and creates deserts on the world, all over the world for 100 years. And how the sun, the intensity of the sun becomes greater and greater and greater. And then the fire comes up from the mouth of Anantashesh at the bottom of the universe. It starts to burn the whole universe. And then there's the Samvartaka clouds pouring rain for 100 years. And the whole entire material universe eventually is dissolved. So Nimi Maharaj, hearing all of this, becomes concerned. As we should be. And he asks Sage Prabhupada to explain something about Maya. And Sage Prabhupada starts to tell him about how man and woman, this illusory conception of 2 different forms, and how they meet and how they bind together in this illusory, false, egotistical conception. And how, due to this, they go through 8,400,000 species of life again and again, taking birth in so many different species, trying to enjoy this relationship of man and woman, male and female, again and again, in this species and that species. So after describing this to Nimi Maharaj, then he says, Tasmad. Tasmad. Therefore. That word, therefore, is very prescient, very pregnant with so many meanings. Therefore, now that you've sat here and listened to our description of Maya, of the dissolution of the universe, of the 100 years of deserts, and the 100 years of rain clouds, of the traversing of the jiva through one species after another, trying to enjoy union between male and female. 8,400,000 species going around and then finally coming again to the human platform, which is the only platform by which we can make a distinction between matter and spirit and the controller of both. It's the only body in which we can have this understanding. We can have this knowledge. Tasmad. Therefore, now having heard all of this and understanding the depth of what you're facing in this material world for millions and billions of years, if you don't wake up. Tasmad Guru Papadyeta. Therefore, now in this human form of life where you have the opportunity to understand the difference between what is Maya and what is Krishna, between what is the illusion and what is the reality, now that you have this understanding, Tasmad, therefore, Tasmad Guru Papadyeta, now you have to seek out a guru. Now you have to seek out a spiritual master. Jigneshu Shreya Uttamam, and inquire from that personality. But you have to be very intelligent about doing this. Who you choose. Who you choose to be your guru. Who you choose to give you this knowledge. You have to observe him. Srila Prabhupada talks about that, in the Bhagavad Gita, that verse, in the 4th chapter, verse number 34, that you should examine the guru, and the guru examines the disciple. We've heard so many lectures these past couple of days about Sat Guru and Sat Shishya. Even this verse has been discussed, but I just wanted to come at it from another angle of vision. And so, Prabhupada gives some indication about what a Satguru looks like. Shabde Pade Chanishnatam. He's realized the transcendental sound vibration, and he's realized a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has realization. He has actual, by association with a superior sadhu, he has come to this conclusion. He has come to this position, this conception, and that realization by which he has now become Satguru. And due to that position, he is able to impart this knowledge. Tadvidi paripatena pariprashnena sevaya upadikshami te gyanam jnani vaschatvadarshi. Because he is a tattvadarshi, because he has seen the truth. Therefore, he is able, as a tattvadarshi, as a seer of the truth, to impart this truthful knowledge to others. And so, Shabde Pare Janishnatam Brahma Shamshayam, he's above, he's in touch with the spiritual energy. He's above the pleasures and pains of the material nature. There's no sphere of influence there on him from the material nature. So, going back to Bharat Maharaj, we see that in the 3rd birth, when he's Jad Bharat, how he embodies this very conception. He becomes completely indifferent to pleasure and pain. They don't feed him nicely. They feed him rotten, leftover food. They are very disrespectful to him. After his father leaves, they literally abuse him. And then in order to protect their material assets, they place him on a elevated platform in the field to act as a scarecrow, a living scarecrow, in order to scare away robbers or to scare away animals, etc., etc. And when this band of dacoits sees him, they think, because they're worshippers of Kali. Kali, huh? They're worshippers of Kali, and they think, oh, this is a suitable offering for Ma. We should bring this human being before Ma and sacrifice him at her feet to please her. And so they bring Jud Bharat, and Jud Bharat knows where he's going. He knows exactly what's going on, but he is indifferent, totally relying on the mercy of the Lord and remaining indifferent to the material influences. And so when he comes to this platform, and he's there in front of this deity of Durga, Kali Ma, and she's witnessing that they're about to execute one of the greatest devotees in the history of the world. And she cannot tolerate it. She becomes furious. And so what happens is the murti of Kali bursts open and Kali comes out. Now this is an interesting thing. It's a very powerful lesson about understanding the difference between a demigod and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the Brahmin, the young Brahmin in the story of Shakshi Gopal, gets the promise of the elder Brahmin in front of the deity of Gopal in Vrindavan. And then when he comes to that deity and asks the deity to please come and bear witness, the deity actually walks all the way to Jagannath Puri, practically. The deity itself is animate because Krishna is not different from the deity. But here we see that the demigod, Kali, the deity bursts open and then Kali manifests. And in one place, Prabhupada talks about how actually the deity of the demigod is not the demigod, but the demigod is receiving offerings through the deity in a distant place. And so we see that this is a good example of understanding the difference between the deity of a demigod and the deity of the Supreme Personality of God. And so Kali comes and she slaughters all these dacoits. And she saves Bharat Maharaj. And Bharat Maharaj just wanders into the forest. He has no inclination for any of the opulences. He doesn't want to let anybody know about the glories of what he knows. He's completely happy to just sit and meditate on Krishna and be completely disconnected from this material world. Srila Gurudev talks about this actually when he's talking about Raghunath Das Goswami. How Raghunath Das Goswami, we hear the story about when he first leaves the Majumdars and he comes to Puri and he's there with Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu has him eating lunch with him every day. And then he starts to think, why should I be the one eating lunch with Mahaprabhu every day? This is not proper, it's not fair. So I'll go find I'll just wait till he finishes eating and I'll take the remnants. So Mahaprabhu asked Rup Damodar, where's Raghunath? And he said, well, he decided that he shouldn't be eating with you and that he should just wait for your remnants. He said, oh, this is very good. And so at the end of a few days, Raghunath Das thought, why should I be the one who gets Mahaprabhu's remnants? Everyone should share it. So he made arrangements to have a Brahmin in the community cook for him, and then he would eat at the Brahmin's house. And so Mahaprabhu asked, so where is Raghunath Das? He's not waiting for my remnants? No. He decided that it was too much prideful of him to stay and eat, be the exclusive consumer of your remnants, and that he wanted to go and take his lunch at a Brahmin's house. Oh, very good, Mahaprabhu said. Then after a while he thought, this is not real renunciation, eating nice meals at a Brahmin's house every day. I should be more dependent on Krishna. And so I'll go to the gate, Simhadwara gate, and as people pass, I'll beg for some remnant. Whatever they give me and whatever I get from that I'll eat. That I'll take. Then after a while he started thinking, and so Mahaprabhu was asking, where is Raghunath? I know he's over at the Simhadwara gate begging food from the devotees when they come out of the temple. Oh, okay, good. And then he started thinking, I'm a prostitute. I'm standing here looking, oh, who is a suitable customer that will provide me with my food for today? And I'll beg from that particular customer. So he became ashamed of himself again. And then Mahaprabhu asked, where's Raghunath Das? He's not by the gate. Sri Damodar said he's gone to the back where they discard the old prasadam, and he's washing off the rice and eating that. So Mahaprabhu goes there, and he begs Raghunath Das that you please, what are you doing? You're eating this special prasad, and you're not giving me any remnants? You're not giving me any Mahaprasad? And then he takes some of that prasad. And then Gurudev was saying how, here's Raghunath Das eating this leftover prasad, eating this discarded prasad, wearing cloth from the street that he picked up, giving up everything, totally disconnected. Bharat Maharaj was living like this. And Gurudev was saying how until we can come to this platform, we really can't become disconnected from this material world. That we have to get to this level of renunciation. And yet, when Bharat Maharaj had the opportunity to preach to King Rahugana, he preached the glories of the Lord to King Rahugana, because this is the mercy of a great pure devotee, that he divulges his wisdom to such the fallen conditioned souls who do not have a proper understanding of their position in the material world. And after that, Bharat Maharaj, Jad Bharat, sort of disappeared into oblivion. And this is the actual culmination. This is where we have to go in the end if we want to be disconnected from material nature. No envy of any of the opulences of the Lord. We're not interested in fame. We're not interested in wealth, knowledge, power, beauty. We're not interested in any of these things. We're only interested in how much we can exchange by loving service. As Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, love is the only thing that there is. Let me engage in your service and let love be my pay. This is the ultimate conception, the ultimate goal, the ultimate practice for us in Krishna consciousness. And so, to get there, we have to have association. Although the Super Soul is everywhere, the Super Soul is present everywhere, and as Srila Gurudev said, even Radha Krishna Leela is going on, Goloka is going on in every atom of the universe. All of that is there. But in order for us to hook into that, to plug into that, to connect to that, then Tasmat Guru Papadyanteji Neshu Uttamam. We have to have the association of someone who's there, who's been there, who's come from there, or who is there now, or who can see it. Srila Sridhar Maharaj says there's three kinds of gurus. One of them, by that association, then we can get some advancement in our spiritual life. So I want to thank everyone for the opportunity of being able to talk a little bit about the pastimes of Bharat Maharaj and Krishna and all of these things. Thank you very much. If there's anyone who didn't get one of those little packets from last night, I have a few in my pocket. You didn't get one?
No, I just wanted to
You ask a question, okay. I have a couple of minutes left, right?
a comment, actually.
A comment?
Yeah.
Oh, a comment. Okay.
That it's amazing how what this history of Jat Bharat and these instructions, they all boil down to association and getting this mercy. And today, you know, like you say, you have to have a journey, you have to do some sacrifice.
Yeah.
I'm driving for over an hour to come here. And I know better. But I said, this is nothing. We have all these powerful personalities from you, my good old friends. And I said, you know, this is the joy of life. So I should just drive and know that I'm going there to have the opportunity to associate with each and every one of us. You know, this is why we have to create a lot of space for more of this to happen more often. And I feel very honored to be here in your presence. But at the same time, I say we have to continue expanding and making it more sweet, more better, because there is, like Shamarani Didi has this strong desires to make a big museum with every facility there is. And I said, you know, this is my goal, even though I may not appear to be doing it physically, but I'm always there trying. And then I see that your lecture was basically saying to me, yeah, what you were thinking about. It says, you know, I'm not at the level of Jat Bharat, but just to hear these stories is so enlivening and the way you make it sound is so easy.
It's not easy.
But we have here Shamarani Didi. What a blessing for all of us to have her here to represent this whole parampara and having the association of Sri Prem Prajojana. My son Vishwarupa and I, and then Arjuna and Houston, knowing that you're here, and Mahabodhi is here, and then I hear, you know, their happiness. So I said, you know, this is Krishna consciousness, where you share, you know, that Dushanti Cha, Ramanti Cha, that you share each other's, and it's so nice, you know, and having this association, I say, whoa, so the scriptures are for real, because even last night, I think it was yesterday, when Rasika was in her glorification, I couldn't help but cry because she described it so clearly in the way that it touched me very deeply. And I said, see, this is a young lady that could be my granddaughter, and today she's teaching me, you know, these things, and it's so wonderful. So thank you, Maharaj.
You're welcome. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, each and every one of you.
Thank you, thank you.
Krupascha kripa sindhuvya nam pavanebhyo vaishnavyo namo namaha.
Srila Gurudeva ki
Jai.
Srila Brahman Maharaja ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Srimati Shamarani Didi ki
Jai.
Prem Prayojan Prabhu ki
Jai.
Gaur Premanande
Hari Hari Bol.